What's up guys, PDC here, and we are back with a competitive analysis video today, and what I am going to be talking about is replays, and what they do to how we play Pokemon, how they alter the way we play this game. This may be a bit out there, but I do enjoy doing theory videos like this. I think that these are some of my best videos because, I mean, in a way, when I do them, I think that they're, like I can just show you guys playing and stuff, but these are interesting topics. They're more than just, well, when you see X, do Y, or whatever. And I think they give us a little insight on how we play the game, stuff like that. And I definitely do think that Pokemon is a lot more dynamic, like almost all games are, than we realize. There are a lot of things going on that maybe we don't always perceive. But for most of this video, I'm probably going to be putting replays in the background of tournament games, SPL games, really recent, so you might have seen them otherwhere on YouTube. But overall, I'll probably put some bullet points and stuff like that while I am talking about what I like to call the replay effect. So to start it off, what is a replay? Well, it's basically a feature of Pokemon Showdown that allows you to replay your games, watch them as many times as you want, in an animated format, in a way which pretty much simulates how we actually play games. Ever since Pokemon Showdown came out, we had this ability, and it's gotten really good over the years. You can alter the speed of it, you can go to specific turns, there's music, all this type of stuff. But in the past, you didn't always have replays. In fact, for a long time, we didn't. I forget when Pokemon Showdown came out. I think it was 2013. A year prior, we had Asoft, which basically could record games based off their pacements. But prior to that, almost all logs were kept on pacement, and a lot of SPL, I don't know if you guys know this, but most of SPL prior to SPL 5 was basically done in private. You really can't find the logs to a lot of SPL games 1 to 4, because during that time, we still had like Pokemon Showdown. Or we didn't have Pokemon Showdown, we had Pokemon Online. And for the most part, that tournament and a lot of other tournaments were actually played with spectators turned off, which is pretty crazy when you think about it. Like, if you think about our tournament landscape now, you think of every SPL game as a huge event. No SPL game is hidden. You get to see the replay for every single one. And that used to be the complete opposite case from SPL 1 to 4. Replays weren't there. You had logs, but you could actually get punished for sharing those logs to other teams, which I know sounds absolutely insane, but that was actually it. It was based on secrecy, and the games in SPL and big tournaments weren't public. You wouldn't be able to find these replays very easily. Now it's almost completely different, and in a way it kind of makes me sad to say that a lot of those games, which were probably really cool, were lost in time. I mean, you can find some of them on YouTube, but I would be willing to say that the majority of them you'd have to do some either ridiculously extensive pacement searching, or maybe find someone who has IRC on their computer from a long time ago and see if they can dig up the logs for themselves. But what did replays do to change this? Well, for one, replays basically made Pokemon a spectator sport in quite a few different ways, which some may be positive and some may be negative. And what I'm going to start with today is talking about how replays altered the way we perceive the game. First, in team building. So how does team building get altered by the replay, the medium of the Pokemon Showdown replay? Well, first of all, teams are more focused on surprise, because with replays, with the games no longer being hidden on pacement and no longer being basically opaque and not being transparent, you have some would call it a curse, but the curse of constantly having to build new shit all the time. Back in the day, back when, most of the games were private, you could reuse teams over and over and over. Just get a solid team and just reuse it. Not like a million times, but you could use it multiple times in a tournament without being worried that someone's going to just counter team you. or will know all your sets. There was an SPL where TOF in DVPUU used the same stall team, I think 7 weeks in a row. Or at least 7 times throughout the tournament. He used it a lot. You could not do that in SPL nowadays. You would get counter-teamed at some point, because that person would know your team and would be able to make customized sets and alterations to his build to beat it. Back in the day, you didn't necessarily have that. You had people making teams because they were solid. And yeah, they could be geared towards a person's specific style, but the types of teams they ran wouldn't always be the main focus. It would be their general play style, not he uses these 6 Pokemon these many weeks. It's more data-driven now. In the olden days, it wasn't like that. So what I'm trying to say is that surprise is the new wave, because you'll notice a lot of teams are not actually that amazing in SPL. You don't see that many teams which are absolutely just wow, like this team is really good. This team is amazing. This is a super good team. You don't see that as much anymore, which is in a way bad, but also very interesting, because people now build more frequently for themselves, for their opponents, for each other. With the introduction of the replay and the democratization, that's a term I'll use, I guess, of the Pokemon game and turning into a spectator sport, this shit has become fucking common. You have people that are building every week with new surprise sets, which may only work against a specific opponent or predicted team, may only work in very, very, very specific situations, but you have people doing it nonetheless. And that is, in a way, pretty weird, because a lot of the time in SPL, it's more focused on scouting than actual building. People will customize their builds for certain players because really, it's one of the most solid strategies out there. Whenever I played SPL, yeah, I would make sure my team was solid and wouldn't fall apart, but I would usually focus that build around something that would do good against that specific opponent that I was playing. You can recognize patterns, you can look at hard data, you can compile large scout reports. Back in the day, you didn't have that as often, and this is just a fact. That Pokemon is now more than ever about the building in each successive week. What does this mean? Yeah, teams are a bit more based on surprise now, and overall, counter-teaming is a bigger thing. This isn't to say you didn't have counter-teaming back in the day, but it's a lot easier to counter-style or get a direct counter-team when you have, multiple representations, literal representations of what your opponent uses. So what does this do? You have an increase or a split of the types of players. In SPL, I don't know if you guys are familiar with this, but there was a discussion on the podcast which talked about the difference between bakers, team builders, and cookers, players, people who play and people who build, which sounds pretty weird. And I really don't build that much anymore myself. And that's, in a way, I guess I'm a cooker. I used to build, but for what it's worth, there's a split between a player and a builder now because teams have to be produced at a higher rate than ever. You can't just have 1 or 2 really solid teams, or 3 or 4. You have to have a decent team multiple times throughout a tournament, pretty much through its entire cycle. Repeating teams in SPL is not good, and I would not suggest you do it. I did it myself once, and while I got lucky and won both games, it is not a very advisable route to take if you're trying to win consistently. So you need people who build consistently. You have a split between a player and a builder because you need a specific type of person who can build. Because the standard TM good player, maybe they can build, 2 really good teams, but at some point those teams will get counter-teamed or counter-styled, and they won't be able to win in SPL. So that's why you kind of need people who can do both, or can at least, specialize in one and offer support. You have people who are completely marginalized in each one of these categories, a baker and a cooker. You have people who are bought in SPL, not even to play a game or just as a sub, an emergency sub, that only build teams. That their only purpose is just to build, because that's what they're good at. And because the people who are really good at playing, it's hard to be really good at playing and really good at building. There are very few people who can consistently churn out both top-level teams, or at least teams that can compete and have at least some originality, which again, this ties back into the surprise factor, and people who can both play and people who can play the game at a consistent level as well. You have a disconnect there. The amount of people who can do that are pretty far and few between. While I could, during SPL 6, I built pretty consistently. I don't remember the exact amount of teams and weeks that I built, my own teams that I used, but I know I was consistent at it. And in that time, I was, I could continuously do it. But there are very few people who can do that over the span of years, over the span of tournament circuits. BKC, TDK, Ojama, McMegan, ABR. That's like it. That's one of those are the main players who can do that. Build for themselves nearly every time and come out with quality. And building is now more of an important asset than ever, because yeah, you can build a solid team once or twice, but that's not going to carry you through the tournament anymore. You need to have constant fresh surprises and ideas, and that's because of the replay. The replay creates this dichotomy of the builder and the player, just by the nature of it, making games accessible and turning Pokemon into a spectator sport. Because the replay is accessible for anybody and every tour player, you have to be able to create teams that are surprising, and you have to create teams in large numbers, because you need to have new stuff if you want to compete in SPL, or World Cup, or in the later rounds of Classic. You need to have a constant flow of teams. So what else does this mean? You have a split because people are assigned roles based on their strength, because very few people can fulfill the entire Pokemon player role that they used to because of the sheer speed that you have to create teams in tournaments like SPL. What else does the replay do? Well, I'll name a positive, or a very clear positive. Replays make analysis and introspection easier. You can look at your plays and you can really dissect them in a way which is pretty easy, because the replay simulates a real live-time game. You can, use them to help yourself predict or get better or expect switches. You can view them as if they are done in real time. When you can repeat a game over and over and over and over and look at where you've messed up. You can look at other people's games and see why they play so well. There is a lot of things you can do now that you have a replay. You can completely dissect your game. You can use it for tutoring purposes. You can use it for, improving your own play. You can use it for demonstrating why, your 2T or your teammate messed up. It's very useful in that aspect, because the replay is a, first-person way to benefit yourself. It's a way that you, in a 1v1 situation, can look at exactly where you went wrong, or exactly what you did right. With the replay, the possibility for lower-level players to really look at where they messed up and where they started to lose is more accessible than ever, because while grinding on the ladder on Pokemon Online or Showdown is a very good, shoddy, I guess would be the better reference here. Shoddy or Pokemon Online would be, it's something you could do. You couldn't analyze your plays as much because you didn't save the game usually, and you probably wouldn't take the time to boot up and take from your folders the replay. At least in Pokemon Online, in Pokemon Online's case, you could do that. Shoddy, you would have to paste spin the game or record a video of it, because we didn't have a way to save logs back then, outside of just putting them on paste spin. Pokemon Showdown, however, with the replay system, completely changes that. You have a brand new, completely different way to interpret, look at, analyze, improve upon all this stuff that you can do with your plays now. It's completely unprecedented. And in a way, I would say I would completely suggest new players to take advantage of this to the maximum, because the replay is a very useful tool because it's the highest level of self, analysis that you can probably get, because it's a game in real time almost. So what is it that replays do additionally? What else do they do? What's the whole umbrella over this? Well, it's that it makes it a spectator sport. I've said this multiple times throughout the video that Pokemon is now a spectator sport, that it's for people to watch and to laugh at and to get angry at and to view in mass numbers in Smogtur's lobby and comment shitty comments over and over and over and over and over and over and incessantly. But more than ever, I think replays might have influenced the way we play, at least in some ways in big tournament games. With the replay, maybe you don't want to look like a fool if you make a bad prediction, or maybe you want to look like a champ and go all balls out because you want to be on that replay forever and ever and ever and ever. This in its own, what I'm talking about now, I think is more based upon, well, yeah, that's true, but I don't think that's really intrinsic to the nature of the replay. But I think it is. I think that because we have the opportunity to gaze and watch and look at our plays over and over and over and over again, that maybe it really alters the way we try and attempt to take tournament games on. Maybe we're more showy. Maybe you want to play that way. Is there a real noticeable difference between people who played during Showdown era and Pokemon Online era? Well, I don't really know, because I haven't studied this, and really this is just basic conjecture. I don't have that much proof to back it up, except for just noticing that a lot of players really like to make really fire, ballsy plays. I don't have any hardcore, data that's like this many ballsy plays are made in this game, but I'm sure that it's possible that it does influence the way we interpret how we should play this game. So yeah, that's essentially it. Replays change the way we build, they change the way we play, they change the way tournaments are constructed, and they change the way the player base is constructed. Builders, bakers, cookers, I'll use that phrase. People who are bought in SPL exclusively because they build for other people. That's pretty much it right now. People who play Pokemon just to build for others. Maybe that's being trapped in your own role. But anyway, this is kind of a quick one. Just some thoughts off the top of my head that I hope you guys take to heart or think about. You don't really need to believe what I say. Again, this is really all just Pokemon theory, just some conjecture stuff, because I do believe, like I said at the start of the video, Pokemon's a complex game, and I think the community overall, looking at how we play the game, looking at the level of our predictions, intuition, it's a lot deeper than we think it is. Anyway, guys, that's going to be it. Subscribe, follow me on Twitter, like the video, all that stuff. More stuff coming out soon, and I promise Ultra Sun and Moon content as well, but that's going to be it for this video, guys. So with that, I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.